Hello, thanks for joining us again on the channel. I've been wanting to talk about this for ages, and now that a friend finally got one, we can dive into his experience. Quick note before we begin, there's a discount link in the description and the top comment if you want to check it out. Now let's not waste any more time and jump right into the details.
Starting things off, our first reviewer gives us their perspective.
This reviewer feels they got an incredible deal on this monitor. After seeing it listed at a surprisingly low price, our reviewer was initially skeptical, but was thrilled to find it was the real deal. Having heard about potential quality control issues like dead pixels on other units, this client was relieved to find their display arrived in perfect condition. This isn't their first high-end display either. They've tested a wide range of popular models, including various OLED and high refresh rate options, but feel they've finally settled on the perfect one for their needs. Our reviewer emphasizes that while this monitor can handle any type of content, it truly shines in competitive gaming, calling it the fastest panel they have ever used. The out-of-the-box sRGB mode is factory calibrated for accurate colors, but it came across as quite dim, with no way to adjust the brightness in that specific preset. However, after some adjustments, the screen gets significantly brighter, more so than the OLED panels this user previously owned. While it doesn't offer the perfect black levels of an OLED, our reviewer argues that for competitive play, that's not a priority. They actually prefer this type of panel to avoid the constant worry of burn-in from static game UIs and productivity work. The built-in G-Sync module is a nice feature, but with a high-end system, they found it was better to disable it to uncap the frame rate, noting that screen tearing is unnoticeable at such high speeds anyway. For motion clarity, they found the normal overdrive setting to be the sweet spot, as higher modes introduce distracting inverse ghosting. The HDR performance is described as a gimmick, so it's recommended to just turn off the variable backlight feature. To get the best picture, this client suggests using racing mode and switching the color space to wide gamut to make the colors really pop. Ultimately, this monitor is highly recommended for any hardcore competitive gamer looking for an incredibly clear and responsive experience.
Cool, let's uncover what our next reviewer has to say.
This reviewer feels compelled to share their experience with this monitor, especially since the initial setup was a bit of a headache. The first thing anyone buying this display should consider is getting a right-angle or up-angle DisplayPort extension cable. Make sure it supports DisplayPort 1, 4, and a new DisplayPort cable, preferably DP2.0. The design around the ports on this thing is just awful, and it puts so much stress on the cables that the ones included caused all sorts of issues like screen flashing and dropouts. Our reviewer had to disable G-Sync initially, but swapping the cables ultimately solved the problem. Once past that hurdle, this client was blown away by the performance. The 360 Hz refresh rate combined with G-Sync is incredibly smooth. Coming from 165 Hz, the jump to 360 Hz felt as significant as going from 30 to 60 Hz. Motion blur is basically non-existent. Input lag is also impressively low, comparable to OLED displays. Apparently it actually achieves around 1 ms response time, unlike other high refresh rate monitors claiming similar speeds, and the brightness is also a plus. There's a fan inside to keep things cool, but it's barely noticeable unless you're in a totally silent room running the monitor at max brightness and refresh rate. However, there are definitely downsides. Beyond the terrible cable situation, the fan doesn't turn off even when the connected computer is off, which might shorten its lifespan. Plus, you're paying a premium for those extra Hz, and many game engines might not even be able to reach that high of a frame rate. Regarding the colors, they're decent in sRGB mode straight out of the box. If you want to use the wider color gamut mode, it is recommended to calibrate it yourself, and then it can look great. The local dimming feature is also disappointing. It uses vertical strips for backlighting, which creates noticeable backlight blade when displaying bright objects on a dark screen.
Alright, let's find out what our next reviewer has to share.
This reviewer found this monitor to be a solid choice, especially for competitive gamers and those who also need it for work tasks. Our reviewer, coming from a setup with both a fast ultra-wide and a high refresh rate IPS display, noticed a definite increase in smoothness with the 360 Hz refresh rate on this monitor. However, they pointed out that the jump wasn't as dramatic as initially anticipated. The unit arrived with a factory calibration report, which suggested excellent color accuracy right out of the box. Using the reflex analyzer, they confirmed impressively low display and PC latency. The monitor also includes ULMB2 support, which this client found delivers outstanding motion clarity when running at a fixed 360 Hz refresh rate. The brightness of the IPS panel is a real plus, providing ample headroom even when enabling ULMB2, which tends to dim the screen. However, our reviewer did express some reservations. They were surprised that it lacks DP2.1 and HDMI 2.1 ports. This means that to achieve 10-bit color or the full 360 Hz refresh rate, you have to enable DSC, which can sometimes lead to a slight loss of fine details. Apparently, this is a limitation of the built-in G-Sync module, and the reviewer hoped the manufacturer would consider alternatives or push for an upgraded G-Sync module in future models rather than relying on older ports. Finally, while it's Display HDR 600 certified, this client didn't feel it truly delivered a HDR experience. It utilizes edgelit zone dimming, which they felt lacked the necessary contrast and local dimming for genuine HDR gaming. They suggested that if productivity or competitive gaming aren't priorities, other options with superior color, contrast, and HDR capabilities might be a better fit, though those might have trade-offs in motion or text clarity.
That's it for today's review. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let's chat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.